All right, guys, this week we're talking about compensatory acceleration, and we're going to talk about it in relation to surfing the force velocity curve. And I want you to remember there's a time and a place for all intensities, and we are going to find out why. Today, in regarding to compensatory acceleration, we're going to learn to maximize adaptations with heavy loads and with lighter loads, and how we're going to use VBT to ensure both are met. But first, what is compensatory acceleration? For all of you that don't know, if you haven't read my article, I recommend pausing this and going to GymAware to the blog section and reading the latest article on compensatory acceleration. But it was made popular by Dr. Fred Hatfield. I heard it all the time growing up, especially by Louis Simmons. It was in Mel Siff's book, also in Supertraining, and is the process of purposely accelerating a barbell throughout the entire concentric phase. So, and it's versus allowing the load on the barbell and changes in mechanical advantage to dictate the velocity of the barbell. Like when you squat, after you get through that, sticking point, like a few inches out of the hole, you can just kind of cruise in. We're trying not to do that. So anyway, let's take a look at this closer. Oh, by the way, we're basically maximizing the rate of force development at any load. So whether you're going with light loads or heavy loads, we're using max intent, maximum velocity to maximize adaptations. So to maximize adaptations at heavier loads, if you look over here, the force velocity curve, like power is a combination of these two, and it can be expressed all throughout. So that's why we talk about qualities of strength. Of course, like somewhere here in the middle is where power is functional. In terms of, like, we think about a baseball player, crushing a bomb, with a home run, or we think about a football player, a collision at the line of scrimmage. Power this at a high rate is really where things get fun in sports. But anyway, with heavy loads can sometimes also affect these light loads. But adaptations at heavy loads, you get its strength. You're going to get strength increases, and that's due to max motor unit recruitment, the synchronicity, the coordination. Also the rate of force development will increase. Not to mention hypertrophy, which these two go together. You're also going to get stronger because a bigger muscle, all things considered, is a stronger and more athletic muscle. So you're going to get that because of motor unit recruitment, but because these heavier loads, it's a slower velocity, and the force velocity relationship is allowing things to slow down enough to maximize these myosin and actin cross bridges. So, but the keys will be max intent, max velocity. It needs to be measurable because, when you tell an athlete to push as hard as you can, what does that mean? I was just talking to my athlete, Brad Katona, a UFC fighter, and he was telling me that the GymAware he's using, the Flex, has really helped him understand what I mean by going fast, or pushing heavy. It just helps him, like a fighter who's never really, he's not a gym rat like me where he grew up loving the barbell. He's grown up fighting, on the other hand. So it's helping him to understand, like I would need to understand if I were fighting. If he was telling me, like, to throw a punch hard, what does that mean? So what about lower intensity adaptations? So you're also going to get those high threshold motor units if you have a maximum intent with a maximum velocity. So that's going to improve rate coding, synchronicity, the coordination. You think vertical leap. So when you're in the bottom position of your vertical leap stance, so like the half squat stance, you want, when you're starting the concentric phase or upward phase, you want the quads to turn off when it's the hamstrings doing the work, and you want the hamstrings to turn off when the quads are doing the work, and vice versa. You don't want them working against each other because they'll slow each other down. So it also improve the rate of force development. So specificity of force at high rates, depending on what's important, what rate is important for you to improve strength at. Like if you look at the definition of strength, really it's the force production at a particular rate. So maximize neuromuscular adaptations, the stress shortening cycle, rate coding, and elasticity. So you can really improve your ability of you can really improve the alpha motor neuron's ability to send that signal, aka rate coding, to the muscle by producing as much force as possible at higher rates. And here's why: because you don't get as many cross bridges, your body will adapt to that by sending the signal faster to to allow for the lack of cross bridges and to increase that number as well. Because the thing is, the more you work at a particular rate, the more efficient your body gets at it, and it improves all the physiological properties. This is straight from Andy Galpin's episodes on hypertrophy. But when you perform movements at a particular rate, your body will get better at all the physiological properties like troponins, calcium sensitivity, the rate of calcium release from the sarcoplasmic reticulum, the hydrolysis of myosin ATP with myosin ATPase. That's really what happens. That's what, when you talk about fast twitch fibers, a lot of it is classified by this very process. So all these processes can improve the more time you spend at a particular rate. So let me clarify something, and I think our next article is going to be on this. When people tell you that expressing power, and I've even said this, so I'm talking about myself, is different than developing power, well, yes and no. If you spend a particular time, let's say that you're trying to increase your ability to handle a certain load at 0.8 meters per second, which is somewhere around 60%. But if you're able to handle more and more of a load at that, you will definitely get better at power, and your ability to produce more force at that high rate will increase. Now, if you just stay there, the law of accommodation, your body will get used to it. Therefore, you'll need to spend time either at even higher rates or heavier loads. And that's where it all comes into the surfing the curve. So you can't just spend time at X rate. But using velocity to maximize is what's needed. Because I've always wondered, when you tell an athlete to accelerate throughout an entire movement, do they understand what that means? But if you give them a target to either meet or exceed, say if you say put 60% load on the bar and I want you to be at 0.83 meters per second or faster, they will do whatever they can to meet or exceed that. Now you have compensatory acceleration, true compensatory acceleration. And you can either do one of two things. You can either go by, the averages of your team or individual results, which is definitely better, but it's also more time consuming. But a target is needed. Individual force velocity profile test might be the best. Otherwise, it's natural to decelerate at the tip top. Like we've all done, if you can, let's say that you can squat 400 pounds. And so now you're doing 300 for 3. You can do 300 for 3, or you can squat 300 for 3 as fast as possible. And it's a whole different ballgame. So putting a measurement on that will always improve the athlete's output. So remember, power is force times velocity, can be expressed at wide ranges of rates. So surf the curve to express power at a rate specific to the individual and the individual sport. There you go. In conclusion, use compensatory acceleration to maximize adaptations at heavier loads, to maximize adaptations at lighter loads, and to perfect surfing the force velocity curve. Use velocity-based training to maximize intent at all loads and maximize velocity at all loads, to maximize all adaptations from compensatory acceleration. You guys can email me, Travis at GymAware.com, if you have any questions about this presentation or any ideas for future presentations you would like to see me create. And thank you, GymAware, for allowing me to help with education and educating all these hardworking coaches and athletes. GymAware.com in the blog section for all of my articles, and of course, GymAware.com for all of your velocity-based training needs. Here are a few of my references in case you want to check them out. Thank you, guys.